Okay, you should pay close attention to this video and listen to it a couple of times until you really get this, because this is confusing for some people. But it's a fact, I'm going to make a sketch of the graph. It's a fact that if you are on the y-axis, if you're at any point on the y-axis, your x-coordinate is going to be 0. The x-coordinate tells you how far to move left or right from the origin on your way to the point. And we don't move left or right. We're merely going up, merely going straight up. So that means that we move 0 units left to right, and our x should be 0 when we are finding that point. Likewise, if we're going to find a point on the x-axis, we know we would have a y-coordinate of 0, because that y-coordinate tells us from here, how much do we move up or down? We don't. We move some number of units left, right, but we don't go up or down, because if we do, we're going away from the point and we're on it already. So we have a 0 for y. How does that help us? Well, that means that you can find the two intercepts by plugging in alternately 0 for x and solving, and then 0 for y and solving. And very interesting things happen because it actually turns out to be pretty easy. Watch what happens. 5x minus 3y equals 30. And I'm going to do it again over here. 5x minus 3y equals 30. And what happens when you plug in 0 for x? You get 5 parentheses 0. And when you solve that out, 5 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 3y equals 30. Is really just saying negative 3y equals 30. Watch what we could have done to the original equation. Look up top. We could have, since we know x is 0 and that means that 5 times 0 is 0, we could just drop this part out and just look at this simplified equation, which is what you can see we have here. Right? That's the quick way of getting there without having to plug in 0. Don't bother. Okay? We just know that we're going to drop out the x term in order to solve for the y-intercept. I'm just going to back all this up and get this crazy stuff out of the way. And let's say, use my eraser tool and say if 0 was in for x, we would just be left with that. Okay. Likewise in red, if we put 0 in for y, we'd just be left with that. So you can take each piece and you can solve it. And then I'll tell you what you get when you do it. Here, when we divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, because that's what's in front of y, you get y equals negative 10. That is going to be the y-intercept because that's the letter that you've got. That letter says that's the axis that you're going to, and negative 10 tells you where to go on that axis. Okay, so solving this one, you say 5x divided by 5, the number in front of the variable, the coefficient of the variable, divided by 5, x equals 6. That means you're going to the x-axis, and you're putting a point at 6. And if I made a sketch of the graph, I would say y is negative 10, so we're going to go down here to negative 10. On the y-axis, put a point. X is 6, we're going to go up here to 6 on the x-axis and put a point. And then we're simply going to connect them, and that's how we would graph that line if we needed to graph it. But really, they're just asking where are those intercepts, and that's where they are based on put a point on the y-axis at negative 10 and put a point on the x-axis at 6, and then just draw a line through them. Watch this video again if you need to. It's really informative, and once you figure this out, it'll be quite easy, but until you do, it seems tricky and confusing. So watch it multiple times.